Before we get started with the video, let me go ahead and talk to you about Soft Tonic. This is a great way for you to get bonus diamonds up to 20%. Now, at the moment, it does display 5%, but this is something that they're working to fix. It is 20% bonus. Now, all you have to do is go to their website, which is going to be down in the link in the description and in the comment section, and you go ahead and you download the APK directly from their website. From there, you go ahead and download Lords Mobile and install it like you normally would, and go ahead and proceed to link your account from there. Now, once you do that, it'll go ahead and take you over to the Diamond Store, which then you can start making your purchases. The more you buy, the bigger the bonus. Now, you will need the App Coins app to be able to make purchases, but you can go ahead and download that from your App Store, etc. And once you have App Coins set up, from there you can go ahead and select your payment type, and voila, you're ready to go. With everything set up, you can go ahead and make your purchases, get your 20% bonus, and then spend it as you go. Like I said, the more you spend, the more bonus that you'll get, and the more that you're going to be able to put right back into more packs. The links and more information are going to be down in the comment section and in the description, so check it out. And if you have any questions, leave it in the comment section and I'll try to answer it for you. Bro, let's start the video. Now, I see a lot of questionable things when I see people and their blasts and the hero choices, etc. So we're going to go ahead and go over some of the more important things that you should look out for, especially in this case when you're going to be sending an infantry spear. Now, I won't be touching too much on the familiars because they're fairly straightforward. If you don't have any specific familiars for infantry, then you just use the familiars that you have that'll boost your army, etc. And if you don't have any of that, then you go ahead and you try to use familiars that'll make their cavalry, the enemy's cavalry, weaker. But the familiars is not really what we're going to be touching on too much. It's mainly going to be more about the heroes and what you really need to be looking at. Now, the choices of heroes that I have here are pretty much the best that you can do outside of the 11k. Of course, if you have the 11ks, especially if you have both of the 11ks that have the infantry stats and army HP, then of course those would be two that you would use. But for 99.9% of the community, you're not going to have the 11k, so we're not going to really talk too much about them. This right here is what I would suggest for somebody that's going to be using an infantry spear. Now, there are some exceptions. Mainly the new hero Pegasus, Seiya, is not necessarily one that you need to have, because if you have Grim Wolf, he'll have the same stats. So if you have Grim Wolf or if you have Pegasus, this is what I would suggest you use. Now, I know that Berserker is an infantry hero, but something to keep in mind: when you are sending a spear, you only need 4 heroes of the troop type that you are sending. So just keep that in mind. Even though Berserker is an infantry hero, they're there because they're an army hero, okay? So outside of these 5, let's say you don't have some of these, what would you use? So if you don't have some of these, some of the very, very good and notable ones that I would suggest would be Watcher. He is also another army hero, and he can be considered free to play, because now with so many hell events, etc., getting Watcher medals is not too crazy. So if you work on Watcher, he can be very, very good. And then of course in the free-to-play options, there is quite a few. You have Sea Squire, you have Soul Forger, so there is a lot of them that you can actually use. But there is a couple that are considered pay to play, and a lot of people use them because you have to actually spend quite a bit to get them max, but they're not really great. Curse Hunter being one of them. It only basically gives you infantry attack plus 30%, which you can get from 4 free-to-play heroes already, so not really great. And then you have Femme Fatale, which gives you infantry attack 30%, which again is the same, and it gives you army defense, which it is better than Sea Squire infantry just slightly, but definitely not worth the cost just for infantry blasts. If you're gonna get Femme Fatale, get it for monster hunting, get it for Coliseum, etc. But yeah, even the research boost would be nice, but for the actual infantry blast, you're probably gonna have better options. Now, if you are completely free to play, then you, like I mentioned already, you have 4 solid options for free to play. You have Demon Slayer, you have Wesley, and then you have Soul Forger, and Sea Squire. These 4 heroes completely free to play, and they're all going to boost your infantry attack. Like I mentioned, you can also include Watcher if you have it, if you're free to play. If you don't have Watcher finished, then don't worry about it. There is another hero, because notice that if you're free to play, you already have 4 infantry heroes in your march. So even if you don't have a 5th one, don't worry about sending something like a Scarlet Bolt that only gives you defense, or a Shade, which again only gives you defense. You don't want to do that. If you have a big guy, he is pretty decent to use because he does give you infantry attack and defense, so he would take a spot over Soul Forger or Sea Squire. But one that is pretty universal would be Rose Knight. Now you might be thinking, well, Rose Knight is a cavalry hero, but remember, you already have 4 infantry heroes on your march, so now the 5th one can be an army hero, and the free-to-play go-to army hero is Rose Knight. You get that army attack plus 20%. Another one, because if it's going to be an infantry blast, you're not really going to use that cavalry max HP 50%. So if you don't have Rose Knight finished, or you don't want to use her for whatever reason, then another option would be Bombing Goblin. Because again, you're going to get that army attack plus 20%. And because you already have 4 infantry heroes, you can go ahead and use an army attack hero in order to increase your stats from a defense hero like a Scarlet Bolt or a Shade. Because these 2 here should be at the very, very bottom of the list. So, like I mentioned, if you're going to be using pay-to-play heroes, Twilight Priestess is the absolute best infantry hero outside of the 11k, because she gives you everything that you want. You want attack, she has it. Defense, she has it. HP, she has it. So Twilight Priestess is the #1 infantry hero that you would want to get. And then of course Demon Slayer and Wesley will be great because they give you infantry attack and HP. When I look at heroes, infantry attack would be #1 priority to have on the hero, and infantry HP would be #2. Defense, a distant third, but for instance, if you have one that gives you infantry attack and defense, that would be better than one that just gives you infantry attack. So just keep that in mind. So now that we went ahead and went over the heroes, actually one more thing before we get out of the heroes, I've noticed that a lot of people have like blue heroes, purple heroes, etc. in their marches, but keep something in mind when you're going to be sending those heroes. Where is my Twilight? Here it is. So at gold grade, she gives you 50, 50, and 30, but at purple, she only gives you 20, 20, and 12. That's less than 50%. So at purple grade, she's not even half as good as the gold grade. So for instance, if you have a Twilight Priestess and she's only like blue, I would still probably use Soul Forger over her, because 20% attack over 6, 10, and 10, I will take that. So just something to keep in mind. The grade will matter greatly, so something to keep in mind. Also, when it comes to infantry rally, the formation is very important. I know that a lot of times, and maybe some of you know what I'm talking about, when you're rallying, let's say you're going with a range rally, you would use some fluff, like some cavalry and infantry, and then you'll put the one that you're actually going to be attacking with all the way in the back. It doesn't really work that well with infantry because infantry moves so slowly. If you go with like a cavalry phalanx, that way your cavalry is all the way in the back, it's actually going to lessen your damage because your cavalry is going to be taking so long to get to the actual target that you're going to be taking quite a bit of hits before they even get to where they need to be. So even if you run into a range phalanx, if your infantry is all the way in the back, you are giving their cavalry to go up front and attack your infantry before your infantry even gets to their range. So essentially you're kind of countering yourself before you can even get countered. So if I were you, I would, if you're doing infantry rallies, I would definitely go with infantry phalanx, having the infantry all the way in the front and having them not have to walk so far in order to engage. It's always a plus. Now, infantry does suffer from if you don't run into range front line, you're probably not going to touch range. And that's why cavalry wedge, when you go in infantry, it doesn't really work that well, because if you don't hit range to begin with, you're probably not going to touch the range, because the infantry and the cavalry are going to walk up past them, and then you're going to have to wipe all of that out before you can even get to the range. So infantry is very, very, it could be a high risk, high reward, because like I mentioned, if you run into an infantry phalanx or a cavalry phalanx or just not range in the front, your damage is going to be pretty mediocre. But seeing as how range phalanx and range wedge are very popular defensive formations, infantry a lot of times is worth the gamble. But yeah, if you have any questions or something that I did not cover, let me know down in the comment section. There is many more things that I want to cover, but I've noticed that there isn't a lot of videos like this explaining stuff like this for newcomers or maybe somebody that isn't well versed. So if you already knew all of this, then great. But I wanted to have at least some videos that people that are either starting the game or don't know the game as well can actually come back and look at in the future, or hell, even right now. But yeah, appreciate you guys for coming through, and until later, bye.